In exactly 89 seconds, $56 million in taxpayer money, and Jeffrey Epstein's darkest secrets. Kash Patel didn't expect the audio. He didn't expect Jamie Raskin to have the receipts. Cameras captured everything. The chamber froze. What did Congressman Raskin reveal that made the FBI director's credibility collapse in real time? At precisely 2:17 p.m. on January 15, 2025, the Hart Senate office building buzzed with an electricity that veteran Capitol Hill reporters recognized immediately. This wasn't routine oversight. This was a reckoning. FBI Director Kash Patel walked in like an investigator who had seen too many lies, his trademark confidence radiating from every step. Stack of declassified memos tucked under his arm, FBI badge gleaming on his dark suit. He moved through the marble corridors with the swagger of someone who believed he held all the cards. Congressman Jamie Raskin sat like a senator carved in ambition, his silver hair catching the harsh fluorescent lights of Committee Room 216. The Maryland Democrat's reputation for surgical precision during hearings preceded him into every room he entered today. His leather portfolio bulged with documents that would change everything. His legal team had spent weeks preparing for this moment, combing through every podcast interview, every social media post, every public statement Patel had made about Jeffrey Epstein over the past 3 years. The morning had started routinely enough. Budget discussions, personnel reviews, the usual Washington theater of oversight and accountability. But then Raskin requested to address the director's previous statements regarding the Jeffrey Epstein investigation materials. The temperature in the room dropped noticeably. Patel's hands, which had been casually drumming on the mahogany witness table, went still. "Director Patel," Raskin began, his voice carrying the measured tone of a prosecutor who knows he has the smoking gun. "Before you joined the FBI, you spent considerable time criticizing this very institution for what you called a cover-up of Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking ring." He pulled out a tablet, the screen glowing with the familiar red play button of a video file. "Let me refresh your memory with this clip from December 2023. The chamber's audio system crackled to life. Patel's own voice filled the room. Younger, angrier, more accusatory than the man sitting before them now. "Has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list." Patel's jaw clenched visibly. This wasn't going according to his preparation. His media training had covered hostile questions, budget challenges, personnel disputes, but having his own words weaponized against him. The FBI briefing books hadn't prepared him for this level of personal accountability. Raskin wasn't finished. The audio continued. Patel's past self building, the very trap his present self now found himself in. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pedophile, the largest scale pedophile in human history? Simple. Because of who's on that list. "You finished that December 2023 interview," Raskin continued, his eyes never leaving Patel's increasingly pale face, "with a challenge to the FBI and harsh words for Republicans in Congress for not getting the Epstein files out to the public." Another audio clip played. "Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are." The committee room had gone silent, except for the damning audio. Even the court reporters had stopped typing, transfixed by the surreal scene of an FBI director being destroyed by his own recorded words. Republican committee members shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, suddenly finding their briefing folders fascinating reading material. Twitter exploded within minutes. Patel hypocrisy began trending as staffers and journalists live tweeted the hearing. Fox News producers scrambled to figure out how to cover a story where their usual talking points had been obliterated by conservative commentator turned FBI Director Kash Patel's own previous statements. "You emphasized," Raskin continued, consulting his notes with the precision of a surgeon selecting the correct scalpel, "that the president and FBI director each had complete authority to release Epstein's client list. You said Epstein's black book is under the quote direct control of the director of the FBI. Look at this clip." The audio system activated again. This time it was Patel from a podcast interview, his voice confident and accusatory. "Black book. FBI. That's under direct control of the director of the FBI. Patel's knuckles had gone white, where they gripped the edge of the witness table. Beads of sweat formed along his hairline, despite the committee room's aggressive air conditioning. His legal advisors, seated directly behind him, exchanged worried glances. This wasn't damage control territory anymore. This was political survival. "All right," Raskin said, leaning forward with the intensity of a chess master delivering checkmate. "So you were sworn in as director more than 200 days ago. Now, the Black Book is under your direct control, so why haven't you released the names of Epstein's co-conspirators in the rape and sex trafficking of young women and girls?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Camera shutters clicked rapidly, as photographers captured what might be a career-ending moment. CNN had broken into regular programming. MSNBC anchors were calling it unprecedented accountability theater. Even traditionally pro-law enforcement outlets struggled to spin what was becoming an obvious case of political hypocrisy. Patel attempted to regain control. "The Rolodex, which is what everybody colloquially refers to as the Black Book, has been released." Raskin's response was immediate and devastating. "Oh no, you're talking about what journalists got 5 years ago." "No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what you were talking about there. The Black Book, under the direct control of the FBI Director." The Maryland congressman wasn't just asking questions anymore. He was systematically dismantling Patel's credibility, using the director's own words as ammunition. Each audio clip hit like a precision strike, revealing the gap between populist rhetoric and bureaucratic reality. "We have released more material than anyone else before," Patel responded, his voice rising slightly as desperation crept in. The Biden administration, Obama administration had the exact same opportunities to release this material. They never did. It was a classic Washington deflection play. When caught in contradiction, blame the previous administration. But Raskin had anticipated this move. "And if you're telling the men and women of the FBI, we're not going after child predators," he continued, reading from his prepared remarks. 1,500 child predators arrested this year, 35% increase. "I'm going to reclaim my time," Raskin interrupted, invoking the parliamentary procedure that every politician fears hearing. It meant the questioning was about to get more focused, more devastating. "Why have you changed your position there? You were saying it's under the direct control of the FBI director, and all of it should be released. Why have you changed?" Patel's response revealed the transformation from outsider critic to insider protector. "Everything that has been lawfully permitted to be released has been released, and as I told you, the investigation was limited." The irony was suffocating. The man who had built his public brand on attacking FBI secrecy was now hiding behind the very same institutional protections he had once denounced. Gasps rippled through the public gallery as observers recognized the complete reversal. "Wait," Raskin pressed, sensing weakness like a shark detecting blood in the water. "Have you released all of the stuff that the FBI has seized from Epstein's house? The computers, the emails, the file cabinets, the documents. What about the financial records? Have you released all of that?" Patel's answer came out defensive, almost pleading. "Everything the court has allowed us to release." "Which court are you talking about?" Raskin shot back immediately. The speed of his response suggested this entire line of questioning had been carefully choreographed. Every possible deflection anticipated and countered. The chamber buzzed with whispered conversations, as committee members realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Social media engagement metrics went through the roof. Explained Files hashtag reached 2.3 million mentions within 2 hours. Podcast producers cleared their schedules to record emergency episodes about the hearing. "Do you want me to break the law and violate a federal judge's order?" Patel asked, his voice carrying a note of desperation that veteran Capitol Hill observers recognized as the sound of someone who knows they're losing badly. Raskin's response was devastating in its simplicity. "No, I want you to follow your own words, Director Patel. You said up there it was under the direct control of the FBI director." The moment stretched like a taut wire. Patel opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again without speaking. His communications team, watching from the back of the room, looked like they were witnessing a slow-motion car crash. Political careers had ended over less dramatic contradictions than this. Everything I have direct control over. We have gone to court, Patel finally managed. But his voice lacked the confidence that had carried him through confirmation hearings just months earlier. You have complete authority, Raskin continued, not allowing Patel any breathing room. Everything you have direct control over, you said. He let the sentence hang, waiting for Patel to complete his own contradictory logic. Have gone to court, and everything we have direct control over we are releasing, Patel stammered, the careful syntax of legal evasion replacing the populist fire of his previous public statements. Raskin wasn't finished. You began the sentence. Everything you have direct control over, and then you stopped that sentence. You've released everything that you have direct control over. The grammatical parsing might have seemed pedantic to casual observers, but experienced Washington hands recognized it as surgical precision. Raskin was forcing Patel to confront the logical impossibility of his position. Either he had direct control, and was choosing not to release the materials, or he never had the control he claimed to have when attacking the FBI from the outside. I have direct control over and can lawfully release. Patel finally completed his sentence, but the damage was done. The qualification, lawfully release, represented a complete retreat from his previous absolutist position. If you're not familiar with the court orders, that's not my fault, Patel added, attempting to project authority, but succeeding only in sounding petulant. Raskin's patience had the quality of a skilled interrogator, who knows his target is about to break. I'm perfectly familiar with them, but how did we prosecute Ghislaine Maxwell? She was prosecuted with the investigatory material that was collected from 2001 and 2005. The Maxwell prosecution reference was brilliant. Tactical maneuvering. It established that Epstein-related materials had been successfully used in court before, undermining Patel's claims about insurmountable legal obstacles. Because of the non-prosecution agreements and the court orders on the investigations and search warrants, we were not able to develop new information. Patel responded, his explanation growing more technical and less accessible with each word. And oh, by the way, he continued, attempting to regain momentum through the classic Washington strategy of attack. Jeffrey Epstein was out for 12 years, and the Obama and Biden administration did nothing to look at his work, his pedophile network. If you want to blame me, that's fine. But now you're blaming the men and women who conducted this investigation. It was a desperate gambit. Wrap himself in the institutional flag, while simultaneously attacking the institutions he once criticized. The contradiction was so obvious that even sympathetic committee members winced visibly. Raskin cut through the deflection with surgical precision. Stop that. I'm not blaming anybody other than you. You're not keeping your word. You said that you would release all of the materials. The finality of that statement hit the room like a gavel. Social media exploded with clips of the exchange. Patel destroyed began trending worldwide. Political analysts struggled to find historical parallels for such a complete public dismantling of a high-ranking official, using their own previous statements. Patel made one last attempt at deflection. Has anyone released more information on Epstein than I have? Has anyone released much more than Comey, than Wray? But Raskin was relentless. Much more has come out in the drips and drabs since the American people and Congress have been demanding it, but it's coming out in drips and drabs. Why don't you just release the entire file as you promised to do? The word promised landed like a sledgehammer. In politics, broken promises are career killers. And Raskin had just established that Patel's entire FBI directorship was built on a promise he had no intention of keeping. I literally just told you there are multiple federal court orders. Patel responded, his voice now carrying the exasperated tone of someone who knows they've lost the argument. I'm not going to break the law to satisfy your curiosity. The phrase satisfy your curiosity was a tactical error of enormous proportions. It minimized legitimate congressional oversight as mere nosiness, revealing the contempt for accountability that had replaced Patel's previous demands for transparency. You didn't join us when we filed court motions to release the court orders. Patel continued, apparently unaware that he was now attacking Congress for not helping him do what he had previously claimed he could do unilaterally. You could have. You have lawyers. You could have shown up. You didn't do that. Raskin's final response was devastating in its restraint. That's a tiny fraction of the material we're talking about. It is a tiny fraction. As the hearing concluded, the political damage was already being calculated in real time. Across Washington, Patel's favorability ratings among conservative media personalities plummeted. As his hypocrisy became undeniable, liberal commentators had a field day with footage of the FBI director being destroyed by his own words. The broader implications extended far beyond one embarrassing hearing. Patel's destruction represented something deeper. The collision between populist outsider rhetoric and institutional insider reality. The man who had built his brand on promising to drain the swamp had become indistinguishable from the swamp creatures he once attacked. In the hours following the hearing, conspiracy theories flourished across social media platforms. Some suggested Patel had been gotten to by the deep state. Others argued, this proved the corruption went deeper than anyone imagined. But the simplest explanation was often the correct one. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. The Epstein files remained classified, but Kash Patel's credibility had been declassified completely. Sometimes the strongest weapon isn't a badge or a subpoena, it's truth, archived and revealed at the right second. When a leader builds power on promises of transparency, but governs through secrecy, their own words become their greatest enemy. If this story shattered your faith in institutional promises, don't just watch, like, share, and subscribe to our channel, where hypocrisy gets exposed and lies get time-stamped. Hit the bell. The next revelation might involve your representatives. What would you do if you discovered your leaders saying one thing before power and doing the opposite after gaining it? Drop a comment below. This dramatized story is inspired by real events and public figures. All dialogue and incidents are fictionalized for commentary and educational purposes. This is not intended to defame, but to explore themes of power, accountability, and the transformation of outsiders into insiders.